Guys, my name is Miguel from UCGym.com, bringing you another video today in which we're going to discuss squats and everything that has to do with squats, how to set it up, how to do them, what weight to use, what stance, all that. So the first thing we're going to talk about is what they are. Squats are an exercise where you have a bar on your back and you're just sitting down basically and you're working your quads, hams, and glutes specifically. So those are the target muscle groups. You can change how much you hit each muscle group depending on how you stand and where you point your toes, how much weight you use, etc., etc. So the variations of squatting are the high bar, low bar, and front bar squat. And then there's also dumbbell squats, kettlebell squats, many different squats. So for the high bar squat, the bar is going to rest right on your traps and touch the top of your shoulders just a little bit. So it'll look something like this, where you're right up under the bar and it's going to rest right on your traps. You want to squeeze your traps and make sure you have a good cushion for the bar to rest on. And it's going to look like this. And this is the most commonly used variation on squat because it's the easiest to do and it works overall the entire lower body. Now to do the low bar squat, the bar has to rest lower on your back. So to do this, you have to sort of pinch your shoulders back and create a cushion for the bar to rest on. This variation is mostly favored by power lifters and people who want to lift heavier weight. But to build muscle and that kind of thing, traditionally you want to go with the high bar. So for the low bar, the bar is going to rest lower on your back. And it's more stressful on your wrists and your elbows, but it's going to go right around here, pretty much right on your rear delts and pretty much 1 or 2 inches lower than your regular high bar. And yeah, it's kind of harder to do, but it has its benefits because the bar is lower on your back and it puts less stress on your spine when you're squatting. So it's pretty much the same thing, but it's just a different stance. And the final variation is the front squat, which is mostly performed in the Olympics when you do in their sort of competitions. They have the Olympic grip for the front squat, where you have your hands in sort of this position, and you need good flexibility for that. And supposedly, front squats target your quads more, and they reduce the emphasis on your hamstrings and glutes. So if you're focusing on your quadriceps to grow them, or for your workout, you would go with front squats. It just depends. The way you do it depends on your amount of flexibility and how you can grab the bar. So, like I said, Olympic squatters, they do this sort of stance or grip, and regular people, I guess, they would do their cross grip, where they have the bar on their shoulders and they hold on to it like this. Well, the rule of thumb when doing a front squat is that you don't need to hold it at all. Once it's in position, you don't have to hold it. It should just be there on its own, but it's safer to hold on to it. So you would get it right under the bar. It would be pretty much right under your collarbone, because if you go over the collarbone, you put stress on it. So it'll go right under the collarbone and right onto your front shoulders. Gotta make sure you grab it evenly. You'll get right under, and then lift the bar up and just squat down. And it would supposedly put more emphasis on your quads, but that just depends on what you're trying to do. So next thing we're going to talk about is the foot stance, whether you should stand wide or narrow. Narrow meaning closer, wide meaning just wide. So many of you should know this by now, that a wide stance is usually called a sumo, where if you're doing wide stance deadlifts, it's a sumo deadlift. If you're doing wide stance squats, they're sumo squats. Each one has its own benefit. The narrow squats, which when your feet are pretty much shoulder width apart, these narrow squats are supposed to put more emphasis on your quadriceps, just like the front squats, but it's not really proven yet, but it just depends on how you feel it, depending on how you stand. So the normal squat is just slightly wider than shoulder width, and then the sumo squat is pretty much all the way out. The wider you go, the more emphasis you put on your hamstrings and glutes because of the lockout you have to do. So with this is similar to the power rack. The widest you can go on these is pretty much the entire machine. So this would just put less stress on the quads and more stress on the hams and glutes, like I said. And the closer you go in your stance, the tougher it is to go all the way down to parallel. When you try to go down to parallel with a narrow stance, it's hard to do because your back gets in the way. So if you go down, this is pretty much where most people can go because their stomach prevents them from going lower and their knees prevent them from going lower, as well as their ankles. Ankle mobility in a narrow stance is much harder than a wider stance where you can go outwards as opposed to just forwards. So for right now, I would say stick with normal stance squats if you're a beginner. If you're a more advanced lifter and want to do a different kind of workout, go wider or go narrower, just depending on what you want to do. And yeah, just pick your stance depending on what you want to do and if it feels more comfortable for you. Like I said, it's not proven that each one targets its own muscle group, but it just depends on how you feel it and how much you want to engage that muscle group during the workout. So next thing is where you should point your toes. Pointing your toes forward when doing a squat is okay if you're doing a narrow stance. If you're doing a wider stance, it's very awkward and can put a lot of stress on your ankles and knees and your hip joint. So depending on which way you're going down on the squat, so if you look at my knee, if I go down on this wide squat, you'll see my knee is going in that direction. So what you should do is point your toe in the direction that your knees are pointing. This way you prevent any twisting motions that will twist a ligament or a tendon or any cartilage, and it'll save you many injuries and it's just more comfortable this way. So point your toes where your knees are pointing and you'll prevent any injuries when doing a squat. Next thing is posture. With any exercise that you're doing, with any exercise basically, you have to keep your back straight. Back neutrality is very important because if you arch your back or you bend your back, you can slip a disc, pinch a disc, you're saving yourself really badly. So when squatting, maintaining a neutral back is very important, same as when you do a deadlift. If you arch your back, you can put a lot of stress on it and cause an injury. So keeping your back straight is pretty simple to do when doing a squat. When you're getting in position, you have to get right under the bar basically, your feet right under the bar, your back right under the bar. And when you set up, make sure your back is still straight. You could have a small hyperextension in your lumbar region in order to prevent having to arch it and falling forward. And you can do that for stabilization. So keeping a straight back is good for stabilization as well as preventing injuries. So keep your back straight throughout the entire movement. And with your head, your neck basically, you have to keep it in line with your back. If you lean forward or lean your head back, it'll put stress on that region of your neck. So keep it neutral and keep your back straight. So keeping your back straight will prevent any injuries and makes the exercise much more easy. And it just makes it work. So keep your back straight and you'll perform the exercise properly. And if you're having a hard time keeping your back straight or you're hyperextending too much, yeah, you should get a weightlifting belt. The weightlifting belt goes around your stomach basically, not your waist. And what it does is it produces pressure around your abdominal wall. When you produce this pressure, it helps you tighten up your core and keeps your entire body straight. A method that many advanced bodybuilders do is called blocking, where you inhale air into your chest, you hold it, and you come down. Keeping your abs, you have to keep your abs tight. You have to have a lot of air in your chest, and that helps you stiffen up your entire torso, keeps it straight, abs tight. And with the air in your chest, you're able to puff your chest out. By puffing your chest out, you're not leaning forward, keeping the bar on your back, you have good stability. So it'll just makes the movement more fluid and prevents any injuries. Also breathing when squatting. Never hold your breath when you squat. If you hold your breath too much, you're not pumping oxygen into your muscles, which will help with the energy or power output that the muscles are going to do for the squat. So what I do is I inhale as much air as I can as I go down on the squat, and then I exhale on the way up. When I inhale, I'm getting all that oxygen in my body, feeding it to the muscles, getting them ready to drive up the bar and complete the movement. Also, we're going to talk about the weight, how much weight you should use, and how it will benefit you the weight you use. So using lightweight is better for people who want to get cut up or they want more hypertrophy in their workout. So lighter weight can help yield more muscular development, and using heavier weight is better for powerlifters or people who just want to be strong and build bulky mass. So lighter weight will help you with lean mass and more cut up legs, I guess. And heavier weight is just better for powerlifters and people who want to get strong. So what you want to do is generally find the right spot right in the middle where you're using a weight where you can do maybe 6 to 8 reps on squats. Now this is kind of low considering for muscle building, whereas regular rep ranges would be 8 to 12. But with squats, since there's such a energy draining workout and you require a lot of energy output, a lower amount of reps is good because you're already using such an immense amount of energy and power to do the reps with the weight. So another thing to talk about is people when they squat, they don't know whether to sit back or go forward. I see many people doing this where they squat and instead of sitting back, they bring their knees forward, and that just puts a lot of stress on the knees. So instead of bringing your knees forward like that, you have to sit back. Just imagine you're sitting down. Don't try to like bring your knees forward, just puts a lot of stress on the knee joint and the ankles. So doing this is pretty much considered a sissy squat, which is not what you want to do. So don't do this, but do this, where you sit back. So going forward is bad for you, sitting back is the right way to do the squat. Another thing is calves. Now calves aren't directly worked with the squat, but they're a good thing to train because they help with the lift off sometimes, and they help with walking back to do the squat and walking towards the rack to rack the weight. So training calves can help with doing the squat, and they just help with foot stability when doing the squat. So once you're doing heavier and heavier weight, you need another form of stability. If your knees are buckling or you're just struggling to handle the weight, doing a little calf work will help you maintain a proper form and prevent any injuries or you from falling. So in the instance that you are using too much weight and you don't have a spotter, but you are in a squat rack or power rack, the way you should bail out of a squat is just dropping the bar back and stepping forward. So to bail out, it's pretty simple. I'm just gonna get your squat position. And you should have the pins or whatever is gonna catch the bar. You should have them pretty much right below your max depth. So this is comfortable for me. I like to go really deep on the squats, so I'll go all the way down. And if I find the weight to be too heavy, I can just let the weight fall back and I'll be good. So that's one way to prevent injuries. Another way is just don't go too heavy, don't put yourself at risk. And final thing I'm going to talk about, depth. Going too deep on the squat will ruin your neutral position. If you go too deep, there's a thing called the butt wink where, so if you go too deep, your butt will bend inwards. So what that does, it bends the sacral and coxal regions of your spine, and that ruins the neutrality of the spine doing the exercise. So that's what you want to prevent. Going ass to grass or all the way down on the squat isn't really good for you, but if you find it comfortable and you can do it comfortably, then go for it. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So I think I covered everything in the squats. If there's anything you need answered or anything I can help with, let me know in the comments below. If you want to see more things like this, let me know on the website at UCGym.com. And yeah.